Good morning, TSSG family. Good morning, and happy day after Thanksgiving. Happy day after Thanksgiving. My name is Waynell. You're in the TSSG space. Here I share Christian content that is largely inspired by and or based on our Sunday school lessons. I do serve the International and Team Kojic. And I'm on this pop-up today. I don't even know if I expect many people to join. I see a couple of you on, so good morning to you. And I'm on with my day after Thanksgiving morning coffee just as a pop up and to try to share just a few minutes with you all. I'll explain in just a moment. I'm getting myself set up here. I hope that you had an amazing Thanksgiving. I really do. I know I don't let you all see me quite this casual very often, but today I give you my best. Y'all know the widow's mite when she brought the absolute best that she had. Today I bring you the best that I have. It's the day after Thanksgiving, and so I have done a ton of things to be a part of Thanksgiving. So we hosted here at my mom's house yesterday. Yes, there are still plates and forks behind me. I I didn't even have the capacity to make like a really pretty area to go live with y'all this morning because we washed dishes and put food up last night, but I'm in the sunroom. There are still tables out here, and my mom is so decorated for Christmas, y'all. Well, she did fall and Christmas. So if you didn't see it on my Instagram or Facebook, she has a beautiful tree in the formal dining or formal living room. I think that's what it's called, the formal living room. And it is a gorgeous, gorgeous fall tree. If you've never seen a fall tree before, you missed it. And then I'm looking at one out here. I told her this one out here looks like a snowman to me. It's giving like frosty. It's a white tree with like the black and red. And I think that print is called gingham. Is that what the black and white Christmas print is called? And then it's got a hat topper. So I'll post a picture of it later. And then in the living room, there's one that's kind of pink and green. I'm sorry, that's the family room. It's too many rooms. It's too many trees, but it's gorgeous. And so that's to say, even where I would normally set up in the dining room, no, she has gorgeous place settings and fall place mats. So this morning I had to just get in where I fit in. This is where I can set up and this is where I can talk. So I can't believe Dr. Rodney Jones is on. Good morning. Oh, thank you, Sister Melissa. So about the lesson. So I woke up to an email this morning and someone's like, I see the notes on your page, but I don't see a video. Yeah, about that. I went live on Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for the international lesson. It was more like 7:15 because Kojic made me late because we rolled into overtime in Kojic. hmm And then I did this beautiful hour with the international family. And when I got done, I was like multitasking on a phone call and I was looking through my YouTube, the dashboard in the back. And I saw this lesson video that had 0 views on it. And so I was just trying to clean up the dashboard. And the one that said it had 0 views on it was the live I had just done. So I deleted a whole hour lesson or 52 minute lesson video, and I'm really sorry because once you hit delete in YouTube, it's gone forever. And I was using YouTube and not Dr. Jones is on here, not StreamYard. I wasn't using StreamYard. So there is no backup of it. I don't have the backup. So I lost it. And that day was not my day for technology. That same day I had recorded for December the 7th. And the Kojic lesson, I mean, I taught same thing, like the same normal 50 minutes, whatever. Got ready to download it to send it over to the editors, and apparently I never hit the record button. So that particular day, it just was not my. Have you ever had a day that just was not your day? That was Monday. Monday was just not my day, and I knew I wasn't going to have any time to come and like do the entire lesson again. And the truth is, I'm not going to do the entire thing this morning. But I thought that while I was I see you, Pastor Jones, stream yarn. I see what you did there. Yeah, but while I have my coffee here and just a couple of minutes before I don't think we're doing, what are y'all doing after day after Thanksgiving? Clearly, I'm not out shopping. There was a time that I was like avid day after Thanksgiving shopping. Like I'd be like that lady I can't say their name, but a certain retailer had a commercial where there was a lady who was like training for Black Friday, and she would like put on her tennis shoes and get ready to run. I used to be that girl. Not anymore. Like, I am a basic decent deal shopper. Whatever I want, I'm gonna wait it out. It's gonna be on clearance. I'm gonna get it online. And to be honest, there is just nothing that I want that badly today. It's just not. It's just not. And yeah, in the spirit of personal sharing, I am committed to supporting Black businesses this holiday season. So even if I get, so far marked safe from Black Friday. I haven't bought a thing, but even if I did, it would be with a Black business. Either Small Business Saturday is tomorrow. Cyber Monday is obviously Monday. Which, by the way, I guess I need to put a coupon out there, right? Because I'm a small Etsy business. If y'all need Sunday school swag, if you think I should do a little quick Black Friday thing on my Etsy store, let me know. Yeah, because I mean I'll do it, but I don't want to do it if y'all don't need it or if y'all don't want it. All right, all right, all right. Let me just do a little chat here about what this lesson was about. It was a really, really good lesson. I know Pastor Jones has the full one on his channel. If you need the full one, I'm going to give you the drive-by version this morning of our lesson from the international series, which is titled Ezekiel's Vision. Ezekiel's Vision. We'll be coming from Ezekiel chapter 47, verses 1 through 9, and then it jumps down to verse 12. This is the last lesson for the fall series of our Sunday school quarter, and it has been a wonderful journey through the Word of God. Thank you, Pastor Jones. Thank you so much. Yeah, and now only the cyber fairies will ever know what I said on that video. So, looking at this lesson as you get into it, I want you to sort of think about, or maybe answer the question like, have you ever done like something like made a small change? You make a small change and realize how it actually changes a space. So, the example that I gave was I was getting ready for fall in my own house. I like to decorate too. And I moved one piece of decoration that I had up and put, some leaves and fall pumpkins up or whatever. And then I came in one day and I asked my sister, "Did you do something over there?" And she's like, "No, I haven't touched anything." And I don't think I realized just how much that small change in that particular corner made such a difference to how the entire stairwell looked in my home. And so I kind of think the same way, like how God sometimes will start something really small in our lives. It may seem like it starts really small, really quietly. And in a way, we can almost miss it if we're not paying attention. And then you realize, like, this was really big when you realize like small things become big things over time, and you realize just how big the change is in your life and just what God has done. So know that whatever God starts small, when he touches it, it doesn't stay small. And that's what happens in this week's lesson. There are 4 words that guided this week's study. By the way, I want to say again that the TSSG notes are up, and they've been up for 2 weeks. So if you want the lesson, the fullness of the lesson, because I am not going through everything this morning, you can grab those notes. You can also take the 20 questions that are there. And if you serve young people, there is a kid pack there as well. There's a kid pack there as well. So we already know that we've been in the book of Ezekiel for several weeks, and it's a book that has a lot of imagery because there are lots of visions and things inside of it. And this week we're going to be looking at a river. Here are the 4 words that will sort of guide what I'll walk you through and what you'll see inside of the TSSG notes. And you can write these down. The words are source, stretch, surge, sustain. Source, stretch, surge, sustain. So what I want you to think about is when life feels like really dry, or when you feel like you get stuck or uncertain, what God wants us to know is that he doesn't just repair what's been broken in our lives. Like, he literally releases a flow, and that flow might start as a trickle, but it will grow and it will deepen, and it's ultimately going to bring life wherever he allows that flow to go. Your cast of characters this week are going to be Ezekiel. There's a man with a measuring line. You're going to see the river, which no, the river is not a person, but you're going to see the river is a big deal in this lesson. There are also living creatures and fish. And then there are trees that are along the riverbank. So when we get to chapter 47, we see Ezekiel, who is standing beside this, or he's inside of this vision that God has given him. He's standing beside a river, which is ultimately where we're going to be. It's important to note that chapters 40 through 48 are when God gives Ezekiel a picture of a future temple. Remember what we've been talking about for weeks, that this is written during a time when God's people are still in exile. but it was never God's plan to leave his people in exile forever, right? There was a picture of a future and a hope that he paints through his prophets. So when we look in chapters 40 through 48, God is giving him this picture of a future temple that's going to be restored, and there'll be restored worship and a renewed relationship between God and his people. And this is a big deal because if you look back in Ezekiel chapter 10, you'll know that these people have seen the glory of God depart before because of their disobedience. So this has to feel like a really big deal that the glory is going to return, that God is going to, be close to his people again. And just keep in mind that when they hear this, even though it sounds really encouraging, these are still people in exile, people who are feeling discouraged, people who are feeling disconnected, who have felt lost, who have felt disappointed. And I think that's important for us to note because sometimes we might receive a word and it doesn't mean that our situation or our circumstances have changed, doesn't mean that our emotions or our feelings have shifted yet, but there is a word that is written over their lives. There's sometimes a word that is written over our lives. And here, instead of judgment, God is showing them what renewal is going to look like. So verses 1 and 2 are the source, and you can go and read those on your own. When you go and read the source, what you're going to see is like starts flowing, right? The first thing that stands out to you is in this vision, there is water that is coming from the house of the Lord. There is water that starts flowing. So Ezekiel is being guided through this vision. He sees this thin stream of water coming from the house of the Lord. So this is a moment in time that is huge. People have experienced the glory of God gone. And now here's something that is starting again. And note that it is small. It's small. It comes from the right side of the temple. When you see the right side in scripture, that's usually a big detail because right represents the side of strength or honor, blessings, divine action. So that note is not random there. God is sending something out that is going to carry his power. And notice that it is God who is the initiator of that flow. The text also says that the water issued out. So that means that there is something like a sense of something greater that's being released. It's not from the rain, it's not a natural source, it's not even from human hands. So this is not a stream because anybody dug out anything, but this is God who initiates the flow. And again, because it is small, it's sometimes easy to miss the things that are small, but even the small things are moving, right? So note that it is small, but it is moving. So Ezekiel's brought out of the north gate. Again, this is a drive-by rendition, y'all. So you're going to have to read your text this week. But Ezekiel is brought out of the north gate and not out of the east gate. You need to ask, well, why is it the north gate? Well, because the east gate is the gate that God himself has sealed for his glory. That happened back in chapter 44. So what this should let us know is that restoration, again, it starts with God. And Ezekiel's got one job to do. Job to do, Ezekiel. Your job is to follow where God is already moving. You can go ahead and type that in the chat. I know this is a drive-by version, but you can type that in the chat. You need to follow where God is already moving. Oh, I said this was going to be a 10 or 15 minute video, and I already see I'm at 13 and a half. I'm still going to get this is a drive-by, y'all. Let me keep moving. So I excuse me, when I think about like even verses 1 and 2, like for me, it really stood out how God's work often starts in places that I think are very easy to overlook, right? Because we want these really big signs, we want big moments, we want big movements, but God often starts renewal in us in ways that are really small. So again, note that the source, when he starts with renewal, even though he's renewing the people, even though he's reestablishing them in their land, he doesn't start with the people and he doesn't start with the land. It is, not even, it's God alone that starts that. All right. So small things become really powerful. Small things become really powerful. All right. Listen, hold on. I don't think I did some of the things that I normally do, right? Because I said this was a drive-by. So y'all already know if you're not already subscribed to this channel that I'm going to ask you to do that. And what really made me look up was the fact that only 5 of you have clicked the thumbs up like video. And I need you to click that thumbs up like video. Like since I'm here letting my coffee get cold, I'm not sleeping in anymore. I'm with you, you're with me. The least you could do is click that thumbs up like button for me. All right, thank you. And yes, Sister Cassie, we need to follow where God is already moving. Your second word is stretch. Stretch is going to be verses 3 through 6. And you're going to notice here that God like deepens what's going on, and it happens step by step. So in verses 3 through 6, you're going to see that the scene changes a bit. Ezekiel's no longer just looking at or observing the water, like he's literally being led into it. And there's a man with a measuring line that's walking ahead 1,000 cubits at a time. And so Ezekiel, again, has one job to do. He's got to follow. But at each step, what you're going to see is that with each step, the water has risen, right? First, it's at his ankles, then you're going to see it at his knees, then at his loins. And then finally, it reaches a point where the river is literally too deep for him to stand in. So, what stood out for me in verses 3 through 6 is like that none of this is random. None of this random at all. Okay, I don't know what that was. None of this is random. So, like the word that is tied to the idea of measuring is this idea of something being fixed or intentionally allotted. So, the stretching that's happening here when God moves Ezekiel, it's not by accident. Everything that he is doing it on purpose. And notice that he is doing it gradually. He doesn't pull Ezekiel out into the place of not being able to stand immediately, but it happens gradually. And, God doesn't begin with the deep water. Why? Because it would probably overwhelm him. He literally leads him. He leads him step by step along the way, and kind of seems to give him a chance to get his bearings about him with where he is. Okay, it's around my ankles. Okay, now I get to my knees. Okay, let me observe that it's around my knees. Okay, got this. Then he moves on. So God leads him step by step. And when you see this 1,000 cubits, it's like a third of a mile every single time that he's moved. And so I noticed something about each one of the depths, because if you think about water, right? I said this in the video on Monday, I'd like to think I am, I'm not a swimmer. All right. Let me just say that I'm not an avid swimmer, but I'd like to think that I could like float or doggy paddle and try to save myself until one of y'all come out there and save me. And my sister is inside, but she's still not out here to tell the story where she has some colorful and creative version of something that happened when we were in the Bahamas several years ago at Atlantis, and we were in the not so lazy river. And at some point, one of those large bursts of water comes down, flips me over on the inner tube, and all I know is I was underwater. Like I was like under 80 feet of water. Even though it was like 4.5 feet. It was 80 feet of water. And so if she were to tell the story, she would tell you that she eventually comes and just grabs by the collar and she's saying, stand up, stand up. That's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Ezekiel. So when he's in ankle deep water is safe, right? You can walk around it. You can still feel like you're in control. No problem. But when you get in knee deep water, that's when you start to feel the pressure of the water. You can feel the water really pushing against you. Waist deep water, I think, makes you feel like the water now has the ability to carry you wherever it wants to take you, right? You don't have as much control over it. And then that last space that we see him is one where he's not able to control it at all, where he cannot stand, he cannot walk across. That, my friends, is called the moment of surrender. So when the guide stops and asks Ezekiel, he asks him a question, right? Have you seen this? He's not asking whether Ezekiel can, like, he has good eyesight. This is not an eye chart test, right? What he's asking is, like, do you understand? Can you see what God has done? Like you were there and now you're over here. Can you see how far God has brought you? And I'll challenge some of you with that this morning. It is November the 28th. We're coming to the end of a year, right? And a lot has gone on. But can you pause? I know we gave thanks yesterday, but can you pause? Like, I'm asking you that. Have you seen this? Do you see how far God has brought you? Do you see how God is moving you? Whether it's things that he's like done or ways that he's allowed you to see, experience, feel, think. Do you see how far God has brought you? Do you realize that every new depth, every level that he took you through, yeah, there were levels to this thing, but it all happened under his direction, right? You didn't determine that the water was going to be at your ankles. You didn't determine when you went to kneeling. You didn't determine any of this, right? And do you notice how the flow grew, how God took you deeper and you didn't do a single thing? That's what he was asking. And then there's a pause that happens in this text. And I think that's important because, like, enough of us take that pause, right? A lot of us want to grow, but we don't like the stretching process. The stretching process is deeply uncomfortable. I don't like the stretching process, right? But we want God to take us into the deep places, but we don't ever want to leave the shallow places to do it. We want the benefits that come along with the deep spaces, right? But we don't want to go through and we don't want to leave the shallow part. So part of this vision reminds me that like God deepens us gradually, right? He gives us that time to adjust. He stretches us, but it's not so far that have to fear what he's doing in the process, right? And I think also that he stretches us so that we can trust him. Like with every level that we go in, yeah, it may feel a little weird in the beginning, but then you realize, okay, like, yeah, I feel this water on my knees, but you know what? I'm still standing. I feel it. Yeah. Okay. It's at my waist. And woo, you know what? Okay. This is a lot of water around me, but guess what? He's got me out here and I'm still standing. All right. So type this in the chat. Type this in the chat. Every stretch prepares me for a depth that I cannot handle on my own. Every stretch. Oh no, there's a power outage for you, Dr. Jones. I'm so sorry. Every stretch prepares me for a depth that I cannot handle on my own. All right. Number 3, surge. This is the surge. It happens in verses 7 through 10. And again, I'm not reading these. You'll have your Bible. This is your drive-by version. So God in this passage brings life to what looked like it was beyond repair. So after the moment that Ezekiel has that reflection, the man brings him now back to the riverbank and he looks again. When Ezekiel looks again, he sees something that he didn't see before. He sees trees, right? And it's not just a few of the trees. The text tells us it's very many trees. So that tells us that there is new growth, right? There's abundant growth. There is evidence that the river has done more than just been at his ankles, his knees, his waist, and caused him to surrender. It literally caused growth around him. And so the man explains to Ezekiel what you've been watching, right? The flow down into the desert places, places that weren't supposed to grow, eventually enters into the sea. And almost every scholar is going to agree that the sea in this text is the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is like the lowest point in the earth. It is the saltiest. It is the driest. It is the most lifeless body of water in that region. I've been to the Dead Sea twice. And even though it's recreational now, that is not what it represented to them. Yeah, when I went both times, got into it, it is amazing. The mud in the Dead Sea, listen, that is the ultimate skincare. When you get out of the Dead Sea, you feel like a newborn baby. That skin is good. It's how like people go out and put the mud all over their bodies because of the salt properties. And then there are all kinds of products that you can buy and take home. I literally saw people scooping it up, trying to take it in plastic bags to take it home because that mud has such healing and restoring properties, even in the salt. But that's not what it represented to these people. For them, it represented a place where nothing could survive, nothing grew there, nothing could live there. So it was like a picture of finality. But when the river hits it, the text tells us that the waters shall be healed. The waters shall be healed. So the word healed has to do with being restored or repaired or made whole. Made whole. So this is not like just a slight improvement. It is a total reversal. A total reversal. So immediately that shoreline, which was once dead, is now filled with fish. So there's life in this passage now. There's trees, there's fish, and there are fishermen who are spreading their nets. And this is again a place that used to kill anything that entered into it. And now it is sustaining life. Here's the part that grabbed me, right? The river doesn't lose its identity when it enters into the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea loses its identity as a place of finality and death when the sea that started as a trickle in the temple from the right side, when it enters the sea, it is now the sea that loses its identity. So this is the moment where God shows Ezekiel, and I think he shows us that, put this in the chat, nothing is too dead. Nothing is too far gone. Nothing is too toxic for him to transform. There's nothing too dead, nothing too toxic, nothing too final, nothing too far gone that God cannot transform. So remember, it's his flow from the temple. And I believe that when his flow enters a place, the history of that thing doesn't matter. When his flow enters you, I don't care who you are, where you've been, what you've done. When his flow enters your history, what they called you before, what they said about you before, it does not matter. The condition of that thing does not matter. The reputation does not matter. Why? Because the flow, the river is stronger. The river is stronger. So this part of the vision reminds me that God like heals the places that everybody else has given up on, right? Remember, Israel had adjusted to exile. They were used to being there, almost settled in like this was a thing, right? They quietly accepted disappointment, but God sends this vision where he refuses to leave dead things dead. Yep, put that in the chat. God refuses to leave dead things dead. God refuses to leave dead things dead. All right. So God doesn't adapt the river to dead places. Dead places have to adapt to God